Well, the other night my family and I we're having dinner, and we're sitting around the table, and I noticed something very different about the way we sit around the table now as we used to when my children were, when they were 6 and 4 and 2. It's a whole different dynamic, isn't it now? I mean, we used to have discussions when they were in middle school. We used to have discussions when they were in high school about things that were happening in life, or something that happened on the news, or something they had heard about in school. And so there would be this discussion. We would be going back and forth and sharing ideas and more or less guessing. We'd say, well, I don't know, I think maybe this, or I think maybe that. But nowadays, the minute someone brings up something at our dinner table about something that happened during the day, or what do you think about such and such, everybody pulls out their phone. What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? I don't know. I heard, we don't have that conversation anymore. What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Oh, it's going to be cloudy. It's all, everything we need is right here. All of the answers, all of the questions you may have, everything is contained right here. It's right at the tips of our fingers. If you don't know how to change a flat tire on your car, you can Google it. And there's actually a video that will walk you through it on the side of the road. If you don't know how to make a strawberry dessert, you can punch in, strawberry dessert. And if you're like me, make sure you type in the word easy. And then click search. We are a very plugged-in world. And there really isn't anything that we don't know, because all we have to do is search it, Google it, and then press enter. Not only that, but if you have the same question over and over and over in life, there's an app for that. It's a software application that you can put on your phone, and every time you come up to the same problem, you can just pull up the app and it'll work you through it. And so I have found an app that has become very near and dear to me. It's an app that means a lot to me nowadays, and some of you know that when I go on vacation, I have a little bit of anxiety when I fly. I don't really like to fly. And there's an app called Am I Going Down? And I punch in my departure airport, Philadelphia. I punch in my destination airport, Omaha, Nebraska, because we're going to visit my son. I put the airline that we're flying on, and if I know the type of plane it is, and I hit enter. And it tells me that I have a 1 in 5,124,275 chance of dying on this plane. And you know the funny thing is? It gives me comfort. I have better odds of winning the lottery. Twice before this ever happened. And then, if I'm feeling a little iffy that 5,124,275, those odds aren't good enough. It then tells me if I take this same flight every day, once a day, I have to live 14,039 years before I'm likely to crash. I'm all comforted now. We like comfort, don't we? We like to be comforted. We like to feel comfort. We like that. And now I have an app, no matter how much my family makes fun of me, that I can key up and look at and feel very comforted as we take off from the ground in a thing that should not be lofting into the air. There's so many things on the internet we can search. Did you know if you go to Google and you type in, what does God look like? You're going to get hundreds and thousands of responses. You hit images, you're going to get lots of images of men, black, brown, yellow, long hair, short hair. Some of them are neatly trimmed, and some of them have long, scruffy, gray beards. Some of them have a really stern look on their face, and some are smiling, like the picture we had on our bulletin recently. And these images, they resonate with us because they speak to something that's already been planted inside of us. They speak to us about an image that is very stereotypical about what God looks like. images that resonate with us because of our overuse of the pronoun he in our translated scriptures. And when we see some of these images, we tend to think, yeah, that's exactly what he looks like, but not everybody feels that way. That's a problem with stereotypes. You know what a stereotype is, right? A stereotype is when we overuse and oversimplify an image or an idea about a person or a thing. I don't know about you, but the last thing I want to do is oversimplify God. Now, this pronoun that we use and we see quite a bit, the pronoun he, it gets used quite a bit, but we forget about the context of what he meant when the scriptures were presented to people. He had a different kind of meaning than it does today. It didn't necessarily mean gender. And if we really dig deep into our scriptures and we start maybe even taking account, you're going to find lots of scriptures which also highlight the feminine qualities of God. And that's where our book opens up for us today in Isaiah 66. I think this is an incredibly rich verse that sometimes we miss it. We miss the maternal imagery that comes up when it speaks of God who's going to treat us in a more feminine way than we're used to. Now, these words are coming from the mouth of the prophet Isaiah, but they are words of God. And God says about himself, he says, I will extend peace to her like a river. He's talking about the entire nation of people. He says, I will extend to them peace like a river and the wealth of nations flooding like a stream. You will be nursed, and you will be carried on the arms and dangled from the knees. And just like a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you. And you will be comforted over all of Jerusalem. Isn't that a tender kind of moment that we're hearing of God? I don't know if that necessarily relates with an image of an elderly man with a long gray beard and a stern-looking face. There are lots of images that can represent God. Now, there's some that argue that there are both heavenly scriptures of Father and heavenly scriptures of Mother. There are some who say, oh no, God is both Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. But we've got to be very careful. We can't oversimplify God, and we cannot separate God either. God is neither. He is neither male nor female. He is not Father and Mother. And if we look deep into the Bible and we start reading into the prophets, and we get to see that the Bible recognizes all of these things in God. Not and or, but in God. God is both the best paternal that we know and the best maternal that we know. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, Moses, he's really mad right now. And he's given a tongue lashing to the Israelites. He's really mad. And he says, you are unmindful of the rock that bore you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. Psalm 22, King David, he's feeling lots of despair. And he's feeling down and out. And he cries out words that we've heard before. He cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Same words that Jesus repeats on the cross. And then David remembers, and he says, yet it was you. It was you who took me from the womb, and you kept me safe like a baby on a mother's chest. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 23, Jesus, again, is in despair, and he's actually grieving over all the people who have turned away from him. He's grieving for the people who are not seeking him, even though he tries and tries again. And he cries out, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often I have desired to gather your children together, just like a hen gathers her children under her wings. The imagery that's found in these passages that speaks of God, they speak loud and clear about God's comfort. Comfort like a good mother comforts her child. Now I know dads. You might be getting a little upset with me right now. Yes, you have a comforting side. Yes, you are soft and tender. But there's something about that maternal comfort that we all know. Now I agree, every child needs a father who's tender. But I think every child also needs that maternal comfort as well. But we need to be very careful that we're not referring to ourselves as just children of age when God speaks to us. Because in all of these verses, God's not speaking to children at all. Because with children, when they tend to be upset and need comfort, 9 times out of 10, a hug and a kiss and a pat can comfort them. But as adults, it's very difficult to find comfort in just that. As adults, we deal with the pain of loss. We worry about disease. We struggle with the violence that's in our world today. We are more confronted with the reality of today than ever before. For those experiences, even though we are big and strong adults, we long for comfort. We long for that comfort we used to feel when a kiss and a Band-Aid was all we needed. That's why all of the mothers in the world know that comforting a child doesn't end when they graduate high school, does it? It doesn't end when they graduate college. It doesn't end when they get married. It doesn't even end when they have their own children. They still keep coming back in need of comfort. So exactly how does God do this? How does God, in this image that we've created, how does God comfort us? Well, first of all, he does it through his presence in our lives. He does it through our other spiritual disciplines such as fasting and meditation and obedience as well. The psalm writer in 139 says, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence in my life?" And then later in the first letter to John in chapter 4, he says, "If we love one another, God abides in us." We've talked about that word abides, right? It's bigger than just being next to, it's being part of. And God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. His presence, knowing that he is in us, gives us comfort. And it's not just through his presence. He's also a very active God in the world, is he not? Through his own direct action, he does things to make us feel comfort. When my anxieties multiply, your comforting, your actions calm me down. Throughout scriptures and Bible reading, we time and time again, we get to see God's reign over the entire earth and all that is in it. And through that, we gain confidence. And through that confidence, we know that God rules over all. Now, I know I'm with you. I know some of you might now be thinking, well, what about this time? Or what about when so-and-so did that? Or what about this great tragic that happened over here? And the confidence that we have in Scriptures tells us that God will deal with all the iniquities of the world. It just may not be on our time schedule. It may not be the way we want it to be done. Or we may never know that God has acted after us. But the confidence that we have in the Scriptures tells us that God does reign. And that God does act. God even says to us numerous times, I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will deliver you. Those are all actions. Those are all things that God is doing in this world. How and when he does it, we may never know. But we have confidence in knowing that he has promised that to us. Time and time again. So he not only gives us comfort through our presence, he not only gives us comfort through direct action, he gives us comfort through something that is absolutely amazing in this world. I think it's so incredible to stand back and see how God works through other people. Anyone ever say to you, oh, you're a godsend? You know, when you're on the side of the road, you broke down, and a stranger shows up and they help you out, and somebody says, you're a godsend. Or when someone comes in at just the right time and says the right thing, or is there just to listen and open an ear, or there to lend a shoulder, or there to help you when you're really struggling, and you think to yourself, or maybe you even say it out loud, and I wish you would, you're a godsend. It's God working through other people so that we can find comfort in our lives. One definition of comfort is to stand alongside, to lend support and encouragement when a situation cannot be changed. Think now all the times that family and friends and neighbors and perhaps even a complete stranger says something to you. You're having a horrible day and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and then you drop something walking out of the store and someone pauses to help you pick it up. It's God. It's God working through others to bring comfort into your lives. Now I want to caution you about this last one because this is something you need to be warning. I don't want you to leave here today and think, oh, Pastor Tom didn't warn me about this. You may be the person that God wants to use. You may be the one that God is speaking into to comfort someone else. You may be the one to speak a soft word, to lend a kind touch, to help someone in need, so that God can work through you to give comfort to someone else. God comforts us through his presence in our lives every day. He comforts us through the daily actions that we can see that are happening, and he also comforts us through using others. Many of us can think about a time that we felt a mother's comfort. Today, some of us still have mothers that we call on. Some of us still have moms that we send cards and flowers to. Some of us have moms that we should call more. And we're very grateful for our moms. We're thankful for their enduring love and their unconditional support. We're so glad that we were their children and that we have mothers that we can run to for a kiss and a Band-Aid, or a soft word, or an open ear. But we also recognize that some people haven't had that kind of a mom in their life. Perhaps they lost their mom when they were little, or perhaps they had an experience that doesn't line up with this image that we have of God's motherly comfort. And that's something that none of us wish upon another human being. And yet, we don't have to stay there. Because God has given us the maternal example and the maternal experience. To know exactly what it feels like to be comforted by someone who loves us so much, who would give us absolutely anything in this world. So even in the absence of perhaps experiencing those comforts in human form, in a way we all understand the reality of comfort and its presence in our lives. I believe that somewhere down deep, I believe intuitively as we are born, that regardless of whatever our experiences are in this life, that we understand the concept of comfort. And now we just need to be called to bring it out to one another in this world. I think that's why God uses this metaphor of maternal comfort over and over and over again. He uses it in ways to the people of nation, entire generations, and he uses it through his own Son, Jesus Christ, for a one-on-one comforting relationship. So today, as we hand out flowers and cards and eat breakfast together with Mom, we can certainly be deeply thankful for our earthly mothers. But we can also be grateful for God, who comforts us every time that we need it. If we have a sense of loss, God is there. If we have an experience where we are swelling with love, God is there to comfort and share the joy with us. I don't want us to oversimplify God. But we cannot misunderstand God. God says, I will comfort you. And there's no app on your phone that can beat that. says, I will comfort you.